The courthouse doors flew open. Daniel Cross walked in like he owned the damn place. $2 billion in the bank, face on Forbes, custom suit that cost more than most people's cars. But that's not what made everyone turn their heads. It was her. Isabella Martinez. 26 years old. Red Valentino dress that should have been illegal. 5-inch heels. Diamonds everywhere. Her hand on his arm, like she'd already won the grand prize. They walked past the cameras, past the reporters, past the whispers. Daniel smiled. Isabella smiled. They looked like they were going to a party, not a divorce hearing. And sitting alone on the other side of the courtroom was Rachel, his wife. She wore a simple cream blouse and navy skirt. Hair pulled back in a neat bun. No flashy jewelry except her wedding ring. Still wearing it after everything. Her hand sat folded in her lap, like she was waiting for a bus, not fighting for her entire life. Daniel glanced at her as he took his seat. Expected tears. Expected anger. Expected her to look broken. She looked back at him and smiled. Not sad. Not bitter. She smiled like someone who knew a secret nobody else did. That's when Daniel felt the first crack in his confidence. Judge Patricia Morrison walked in. 60-something black woman with silver hair and zero patience for bullshit. 30 years on the bench. She'd seen every trick in the book twice. Case number 2024, DR 7834. Cross versus Cross. She didn't even look up from her file. This is one of those cases, isn't it? Daniel's lawyer stood up. Preston Hughes. $800 an hour. Shark in a suit. Your Honor, my client Daniel Cross is seeking dissolution of his 8-year marriage based on irreconcilable differences, and he paused for dramatic effect. Questions regarding the paternity of the 2 children currently in Mrs. Cross's custody. The courtroom exploded. Everyone started talking at once. Reporters scrambling for their phones. People gasping. Rachel didn't move. Didn't gasp. Didn't cry. She just kept smiling. And that's when Daniel knew he'd made a huge mistake. 8 years earlier, Rachel Rodriguez met Daniel Cross in Mrs. Henderson's chemistry class. He was the skinny kid with glasses too big for his face, hands shooting up for every question. Total nerd. Most kids rolled their eyes at him. Rachel noticed him because he was the only person in that class who actually gave a damn about chemistry. You're Rachel Rodriguez, right? Daniel appeared next to her in the library one day, nervous energy radiating off him. You aced that last test. I was wondering if maybe you wanted to study together. She looked up from her notes. Sure. His whole face lit up like she'd just said yes to prom. That study session turned into 5. Then 10. Then every day. Then Daniel waiting by her locker. Then walking her to her mom's beat-up Honda. By senior year, they were inseparable. Daniel had these massive dreams. Talked endlessly about tech, about changing the world, about apps that didn't exist yet. He filled notebooks with ideas, stayed up till 3 a.m. coding, taught himself everything from YouTube and library books. Rachel believed in him when nobody else did. When his guidance counselor said to be realistic, Rachel stayed up all night helping him perfect his application to MIT. When MIT rejected him but Berkeley said yes, Rachel helped figure out the financial aid. When he wanted to drop out sophomore year for some startup, Rachel talked him into finishing his degree first. You're going to change the world, Daniel Cross, she told him one night in their tiny studio apartment. But you're doing it smart. He proposed 3 days after graduation. The ring was nothing special. He'd saved 6 months working nights at Best Buy. Silver band, diamonds so small you needed a microscope. Bought from a pawn shop. Rachel cried anyway. Said yes anyway. Wore it like it was the Hope Diamond. They got married at City Hall. Honeymoon was a camping trip they couldn't afford. It was perfect. For a while, everything stayed perfect. Daniel got a job at some mid-level tech company. Rachel was in her final year of law school. 1 year left till she'd be a lawyer. They lived in a 1-bedroom where the heat worked sometimes and the neighbors fought at 2 a.m. But Daniel brought home bodega flowers every week. $5 bouquets, half dead, but she loved them anyway. Then Rachel got pregnant with twins. I'm deferring, she told Daniel one night, hand on her growing belly. Just 1 year. Till the babies are stable. Then I'll finish. You sure? Daniel asked, but he looked relieved. His startup was taking off. They needed stability. I'm sure, Rachel said. I believe in us. And for those first 4 years of Emma and Ethan's lives, Daniel kept his promise. He showed up, changed diapers at 3 a.m., read bedtime stories, built blanket forts. Was there. The company grew. Money came. First thousands, then millions. Daniel hit Forbes. Cover of Wired magazine. And slowly, like ice forming on a windshield, something changed. The twins' 4th birthday. Rachel spent 3 days planning the perfect party. Transformed their living room. They'd upgraded to a penthouse by then. Into a wonderland. Rocket ship cake. 15 kids. A magician. Daniel's chair sat empty. When's Daddy coming? Emma asked for the 3rd time, butterfly wings drooping. Soon, baby. He showed up 90 minutes late. Cake was cut. Presents opened. Half the guests gone. Traffic, he said, kissing Rachel's cheek. Smelling like perfume she didn't recognize. You promised, she whispered. I'm here, aren't I? His smile was tired. Annoyed. Can we not do this now? 20 minutes with the kids. Then he disappeared into his office for a call with Tokyo. That was May. By June, he was gone 3 weeks out of 4. Building the empire, babe. Always the same excuse. Their 8th anniversary came in September. Rachel made reservations at the restaurant where they'd had their first date. Wore a green dress Daniel once said made her eyes look like emeralds. Waited 2 hours. He never showed. Texted at 11 p.m. Shit, babe, I'm so sorry. Board meeting. Make it up to you this weekend. He was in Dubai that weekend. October was when everything shattered. Rachel woke at 2 a.m. Daniel wasn't in bed. She went downstairs, expecting to find him working. He was on the couch in the dark. Phone screen lighting up his face. Smiling. This private smile she used to get. His phone buzzed. Message flashed across the top before he swiped it away. Rachel saw it anyway. Missing you already. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? Everything stopped. Rachel. Daniel finally noticed her. Didn't hear you. Who's I? Her voice came out steady somehow. Daniel's face did this complicated thing. Guilt. Calculation. Decision. It's Ian. From Singapore. We grabbed drinks after the deal. Guy texts weird. Autocorrect. Ian. Rachel knew, standing in that expensive penthouse with her sleeping kids upstairs, that he was lying. But she didn't scream. Didn't throw his phone at his face. Okay. Going back to bed. She walked upstairs, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. The next morning, Rachel made a phone call. Sarah Torres. They'd been study partners in law school before Rachel deferred. Sarah became a private investigator instead of finishing law school. Sarah? It's Rachel. I think my husband's having an affair. Tell me everything. Rachel did. 3 days later, the photos arrived. 23 of them. Daniel leaving his office at 7:30 p.m. Getting in his Tesla. Driving to the Upper East Side. Parking outside a luxury building Rachel didn't know. Then the one that destroyed her. Daniel on the sidewalk. Kissing a woman. 26, maybe 27. Gorgeous. Wearing a black dress that cost more than Rachel's wedding dress. Long dark hair. Legs for days. His hand in her hair. Her body pressed against his. Right there on the street. More photos. Restaurant. Lou Bernardine. 500 per person. Daniel feeding her dessert from his fork. Final photo. Them entering the Peninsula Hotel. 11:47 p.m. Next morning, 7:23 a.m. Both leaving together. Her in his coat, heels in hand, walking barefoot. He looked happy. Happier than Rachel had seen him in years. Rachel stared at her laptop until she couldn't see anymore. Then called Sarah back. Who is she? Isabella Martinez. 26. Works as a consultant for your husband's company. Started 8 months ago. 8 months. There's more, Sarah said carefully. I've been watching his accounts. He's moving money. Large amounts. Into accounts you don't have access to. How much? 67 million so far. Rachel sat in her expensive kitchen and felt something shift inside her. Something cold. Something hard. Something that would save her life. Find me everything, Rachel said. Every restaurant. Every hotel. Every dollar. Everything. Now we're talking. The investigation. Sarah Torres didn't look like a private investigator. She looked like a soccer mom. Lululemon and messy buns. Blended into Whole Foods and coffee shops perfectly. That's what made her dangerous. They met at a cafe. Sarah handed Rachel a folder. Isabella Martinez isn't who she claims to be. Rachel opened it. Timeline that made her stomach drop. 2019. Married Robert Chun, CEO. Marriage lasted 11 months. Settlement. $30 million plus penthouse. 2021. Relationship with David Kim, finance guy. 14 months. Settlement. $18 million plus stocks. 2023. Hired at Cross-Tech Affair with Daniel begins. She's done this before, Rachel whispered. Twice that we can prove. She has a pattern. Targets rich guys. Usually married. Gets hired, starts an affair, helps the guy hide assets, orchestrates divorce, walks away with millions. Sarah pulled out her phone. Showed Rachel emails between Isabella and Daniel. Isabella, you're so brilliant. Your wife doesn't appreciate what she has. Daniel, she doesn't get the pressure. Isabella, you need someone who understands you. Then messages from 3 months ago. Isabella, you deserve happiness. Not stuck in a marriage that doesn't serve you. Daniel, it's complicated. The kids. Isabella, I've been through this before. I know how to protect your assets. Ways to make sure you keep everything. Daniel, I'm listening. Then Isabella laid out a plan. Move money offshore. Create LLCs. Make Rachel look unstable. Document her erratic behavior. Plant doubt about the kid's paternity. Isabella, if you control the narrative, you control the outcome. Make her the problem. Any judge will side with you. Rachel's hands shook. She's destroyed 2 marriages before mine. And she was planning to destroy yours the same way. Rachel looked up at Sarah. What else do we have? Sarah smiled. Not a nice smile. Oh, honey, we have everything. The preparation. Rachel met with Margaret Chen, best divorce lawyer in New York. Mid-40s. Sharp. Ruthless. Your husband made 3 mistakes, Margaret said. He underestimated you. He left digital trails. And he hired the wrong woman to help him commit fraud. What do I do? Go home. Act normal. Be the perfect wife. Smile. Make dinner. Kiss him goodnight. Can you do that? Rachel thought about the past weeks, smiling while dying inside. Yes. Good. We need 3 months. Time to gather everything. Time to build a case so tight he'll have no choice. That night, Rachel did something she'd been planning. Daniel was in his office. Door closed. Probably talking to Isabella. Rachel sat at his computer. Typed his password. DNIL 2016. Year his company went public. Computer unlocked. She inserted the USB drive Margaret's tech guy gave her. Small program that would clone everything Daniel did to a server Rachel could access. Every email. Every file. Every bank account. Installation took 45 seconds. Rachel removed the drive. Cleared history. Shut down. Climbed into bed beside her husband and stared at ceiling till dawn. The next 3 months. By day, perfect wife. Packed lunches. School functions. Smiled when Daniel came home late. By night, someone else. Rachel watched the clone files pour in. Watched Daniel move another $38 million. Total, $105 million hidden. She watched him and Isabella plan their future. Messages about rings. About where they'd live. About how they'd spin it to the media. Meanwhile, Sarah dug deeper. Isabella Martinez's real name was Isabella Morales. Student visa expired 2 years ago. She'd been here illegally. The Columbia MBA was real, paid for by her first victim. Sarah found divorce records. Court filings. 2 previous wealthy men. Same pattern. Same methodology. But Isabella had never met anyone like Rachel Cross before. By month 3, Rachel had everything. Financial records. Emails proving fraud. Texts proving the affair. Evidence of Isabella's pattern. Proof Isabella had researched Rachel's vulnerabilities. Margaret reviewed it all with satisfaction. This is enough to bury him. But we're doing better. We're letting him file first. What? Think. Right now he believes he's in control. Thinks you're clueless. Let him file. Let him think he ambushed you. We walk in looking like the shocked wife. Then, Margaret smiled. We pull out evidence piece by piece and watch his world collapse. Brilliant. Ruthless. Perfect. One more thing. We need DNA tests. Not from labs he can bribe. 3 separate independent facilities. How? Margaret handed her a card. My contact. You need samples from Daniel and both twins. Hair works best. Rachel thought about hairbrushes. Combs. I can get them. 2 weeks later, Rachel had DNA results. Both twins. 99.9% probability Daniel was their father. Proof that every accusation he was planning was complete lies. Daniel filed for divorce on a Wednesday. Process server arrived while Rachel was home with the twins. She answered the door in yoga pants and Daniel's old Stanford shirt. Hair messy. No makeup. Rachel Cross. Yes. You've been served. Rachel took the envelope with trembling hands. Not because she was scared. Because she needed to look scared. Thank you. she whispered, voice breaking perfectly. She closed the door, waited till footsteps retreated, looked down at the envelope, and smiled. Back to the courtroom. Which brings us full circle. Judge Morrison looked at Preston Hughes. You claim your client has grounds to question paternity. That's serious. Yes, Your Honor. My client has reason. What reason? Evidence of infidelity. Preston shifted. My client's suspicions. Suspicions, Judge Morrison repeated flatly. You want paternity tests based on suspicions? Your Honor. Ms. Chun, does your client object? Margaret stood. No, Your Honor. My client welcomes it. She has nothing to hide. Daniel glanced at Rachel. Why wasn't she fighting? Rachel smiled at him. That knowing smile. However, Margaret continued, we request independent labs. We want absolute impartiality. Agreed. Anything else, Mr. Hughes? Preston stood. My client requests primary custody with visitation for Mrs. Cross. The gallery gasped. Judge Morrison looked at Daniel. Mr. Cross, when's the last parent-teacher conference you attended? Silence. What are your children's teachers' names? More silence. You request custody of children whose teachers you can't name? Request denied. Anything else? No, Your Honor. Ms. Chun. Margaret stood. Your Honor, my client would like to present evidence that Mr. Cross has been systematically hiding marital assets. The courtroom erupted. Daniel went pale. Evidence of potential fraud. Judge Morrison's voice could cut glass. Approach. Margaret handed the judge a folder. Rachel watched Daniel's face as Judge Morrison read. Watched color drain. Watched his hands grip the table. Judge Morrison looked up. Mr. Hughes, does your client have offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands? I need to consult. Yes or no? My client maintains investment accounts. This is a bank statement from an LLC established 3 months ago. Contains $42 million not on any disclosure your client filed. Dead silence. I can explain, Daniel started. Sit. Down. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. Ms. Chun, how many accounts? 7, Your Honor. Totaling $105 million. Judge Morrison's expression was thunderous. Mr. Cross, deliberately hiding assets isn't just unethical. It's illegal. It's fraud. Your Honor, I didn't. You didn't accidentally move $105 million? I'm ordering immediate freeze on all accounts. Full disclosure within 72 hours or contempt. She turned to Margaret. What else? Evidence of adultery, Your Honor. Judge Morrison sighed. Of course. Present it. Margaret pulled out photos. Accidentally, dropped several where the gallery could see. Daniel and Isabella. Kissing. Hotels. Yacht. Your Honor, my client has documented evidence of a year-long affair, during which Mr. Cross spent marital funds on his mistress. Judge Morrison looked at the photos with disgust. Mr. Cross, you're accusing your wife of infidelity while parading your mistress around Manhattan? It's not. Save it. Ms. Chun, is that woman present? Margaret pointed. Ms. Isabella Martinez. 3rd row. Every head turned. Isabella looked trapped. Grabbed her purse. Bailiff, prevent that woman from leaving. Bailiff blocked the exit. Your Honor, Preston protested. Ms. Martinez isn't. She's a witness. She stays. Judge Morrison looked at Isabella. Ms. Martinez, have you been in a romantic relationship with the defendant? Isabella looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at his lawyer. Yes, she finally whispered. Speak up. Yes, Your Honor. How long? About a year. The courtroom exploded. Judge Morrison held up her hand. I've seen enough. 1 hour recess. When we return, I want complete financial disclosure, DNA facility representatives, and everyone better be prepared to tell the truth. Gavel came down. Rachel walked toward the exit. As she passed Daniel's table, he grabbed her arm. Rachel, wait. She looked at his hand, then his face. Don't touch me. And walked away. Behind her, Isabella hissed. You said you had this under control. I don't know how. She's been playing you this whole time. Rachel smiled as she stepped into the hallway. Yes, she thought. Yes, I have. 1 hour later. They returned to the courtroom. This time Daniel looked terrified. Suit rumpled. Tie loosened. Isabella wasn't behind him. She'd been moved far away. Judge Morrison entered. Before DNA results, Mr. Cross, where's your disclosure? Preston handed over a thick folder. Judge Morrison flipped through. Offshore accounts in 4 countries. Multiple LLCs. Real estate not disclosed. She looked at Daniel. You forgot $105 million. Daniel said nothing. Thought so. Now DNA results. The courtroom went silent. Rachel wore a lavender dress today. Hair down. She looked peaceful. Judge Morrison opened the envelope. Emma and Ethan Cross, twins, age 4. Laboratory 1, 99.9% probability Daniel Cross is biological father. Laboratory 2, 99.9%. Laboratory 3, 99.9%. She looked at Daniel with fury. You filed for divorce claiming doubts about paternity. Tried to traumatize your children. And 3 labs confirmed they're yours. Pause. Want to explain? Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. You had no concerns. You had a strategy. Strategy that blew up because your wife's smarter than you thought. She looked at Rachel. Mrs. Cross, I apologize. I believe you've never been unfaithful. Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Morrison turned back. But I'm not done. Miss Chun. Margaret stood. Your Honor, one more piece of evidence. A recording. What kind? Phone conversation between Mr. Cross and Ms. Martinez. Recorded 3 months ago. Margaret pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the courtroom. How much longer do I pretend with Rachel? I'm exhausted. Isabella's voice. Few more months. Need to protect assets first. Then file. Paint her as unfit. Walk away with everything. Daniel. And the kids? Isabella. Laughing. Honey, we both know you don't actually want custody. You want to look like you fought. You'll be relieved when the judge gives them to Rachel. More time for us. Silence. Then Daniel. Yeah, you're right. I just need to look like I tried. Courtroom erupted. Judge Morrison held up her hand. Is there more? Yes, Your Honor. Isabella's voice. Once divorce is final, we get married. I'll be Mrs. Cross. Unlike your boring first wife, I understand you. Understand ambition. Daniel. Rachel never understood. Always nagging about family time. Like I don't have a company to run. Isabella. Exactly. She held you back. I never will. Margaret stopped recording. Silence. Judge Morrison looked at Daniel. If looks could kill. You explicitly stated you don't want custody. Admitted you view them as burdens. Confessed you planned making your wife look unfit to win. Daniel had nothing. I've been a judge 31 years. But what you've done ranks among the most cold-blooded attempts to destroy another person I've encountered. She looked at Rachel. Mrs. Cross, you deserved better. Then back to Daniel. Here's my ruling. First, sole physical and legal custody to Mrs. Cross. Mr. Cross gets supervised visitation every other weekend at his expense. Daniel's face crumbled. Second, normally we divide assets equitably. However, given Mr. Cross's deliberate fraud and malicious conduct, I'm awarding 70% of all marital assets to Mrs. Cross. Courtroom exploded. 70% of $380 million. Rachel was getting $266 million. Additionally, Mrs. Cross gets the marital home, vacation property, and 3 vehicles. Mr. Cross will pay $50,000 monthly child support. We'll maintain health insurance. We'll establish $2 million college funds for each child. And we'll pay Mrs. Cross's legal fees. Margaret smiled. About $800,000. Furthermore, I'm referring this to the DA for potential perjury and fraud charges. Daniel's face went white. Finally, Mrs. Cross, I wish you and your children all the best. You demonstrated grace, intelligence, and strength. She picked up her gavel. The marriage is dissolved. All orders effective immediately. Court adjourned. Gavel came down. Over. Rachel sat perfectly still. She'd won. Around her, chaos. Reporters rushing. People talking. Margaret squeezed her hand. Congratulations. Thank you. For everything. Rachel stood. Smoothed her lavender dress. Had to pass Daniel's table. He sat with head in hands. Shoulders shaking. Rachel paused. He looked up. Eyes red. Face wet. 15 years of history in that look. Rachel, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Yes, you do, Rachel said quietly. You knew exactly what you were doing. You chose it. If I could take it back. But you can't. That's not how life works. You don't get to betray someone then undo it because you got caught. Please. I love you. You didn't make a mistake. You made choices. For over a year. You chose the affair. Chose hiding money. Chose accusing me. Chose questioning whether your kids were yours. That wasn't mistakes. That was who you decided to become. She turned. Rachel, please. He reached for her. She stepped back. Eyes cold. Don't ever touch me again. And Rachel Rodriguez Cross walked out of that courtroom with her head high, past reporters, past cameras, out into afternoon sunlight. She was free. Her real life, the one she designed for herself, was about to begin. 2 years later, the office was smaller than Margaret's. Less intimidating. Intentional. Sign on the door, Rodriguez Family Law, advocating for women and families. Rachel sat behind her desk. She'd finished law school in record time. Passed bar first try. Open practice 6 months ago. Already had more clients than she could handle. Women who'd read about her case. Women who wanted an attorney who understood. Rachel specialized in high-asset divorces where wives were being manipulated. Built a reputation. Fair but ruthless. She didn't just win settlements. She exposed fraud. Made sure wealthy men who thought they could cheat the system faced consequences. She'd become one of the most sought-after divorce attorneys in New York. Sarah worked for her full-time now. Best team. The twins, Emma and Ethan, were 6. Thriving. They saw Daniel every other weekend. He'd actually done therapy. Actually learned being present. Became a better father. He'd never be the husband Rachel needed. But he was slowly becoming decent to his kids. That was progress. Daniel lived alone in a Brooklyn apartment. Sent child support on time. Never missed. Once a month, he sent a text. I'm sorry. Rachel never responded. But didn't block him either. Isabella had been deported. Last Rachel heard, she was in Mexico trying to rebrand as a life coach. Had 3,000 followers. Her schemes didn't work when people could Google her name. Karma was beautiful. Rachel's mom had retired. Rachel bought her a house. Set up a trust fund. Mija, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. You worked yourself to exhaustion for me. Now it's my turn. On a Tuesday evening, 2 years after that courthouse victory, Rachel closed her laptop and smiled. She'd built this. From the ashes of a destroyed marriage, she'd built something beautiful. Something that helped others. Her phone buzzed. Text from Emma. Mommy, when are you coming home? We want to show you our science project. Rachel smiled, packed her briefcase, headed out. She had a family waiting. Children who loved her. Career that fulfilled her. Life that was completely hers. Daniel Cross tried taking everything from her. Instead, he'd freed her to become everything she was meant to be. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. Living well. Being happy. Helping others. Winning not just in court, but in life. The end. If this story taught you anything about strength, justice, or standing up for yourself, drop a comment below. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, underestimating a woman who's had enough is the biggest mistake you can make. Subscribe for more true stories. Your support means everything.